Welcome to Eyes Through Time, the channel that uncovers America's buried truths, where history's darkest secrets are revealed through bloodlines, madness, and mystery. The story begins deep in the Appalachian Mountains, in a place where the sun barely touches the valley floor. The year is 1854. Mist crawls over the treetops and the air smells of coal, damp soil, and something older, something that doesn't want to be remembered. In that forgotten hollow stands the Whitlock estate, a crumbling wooden mansion surrounded by endless fog and silence. Inside, the Whitlock family lives in isolation, far from the nearest town. The patriarch, Silas Whitlock, forbids anyone from leaving the property, believing that outsiders bring impurity. The townsfolk whisper that the Whitlocks were once wealthy landowners, but after generations of marrying within their own bloodline, their fortune and their sanity began to rot. Children with pale eyes and twisted features roam the halls at night, their laughter echoing through the creaking walls. The family matriarch, Eleanor Whitlock, keeps portraits of ancestors who all share the same haunting smile, a smile that looks too familiar, too repeated across generations. The valley itself seems cursed. No birds sing near the estate. Travelers who stray too close claim to hear distant weeping, or see flickers of candlelight from windows long abandoned. Yet the Whitlocks insist they are chosen, protected by their lineage, untouched by the corruption of the outside world. But behind the locked doors and curtained windows, something sinister festers. The bloodline that was meant to keep them pure has begun to consume them. Eleanor prays nightly to ancestors she calls the first mothers, asking them to preserve the family's strength. But even she feels the weight of the curse pressing in, the whispers of the dead, the sickness in her daughter's eyes, the feeling that the Whitlock name is destined for horror. And so begins the tale of the most inbred women in U.S. history, a story not just of deformity and madness, but of obsession, isolation, and the price of keeping blood too pure for too long. Eleanor Whitlock awoke each morning to the sound of whispers, not from her family, but from the walls. The house built by her great-grandfather seemed alive, its wooden beams groaning with the memories of every forbidden union that had taken place beneath its roof. The air inside the mansion was heavy, thick with the smell of candle wax, mildew, and decay. Her daughters, Clara and Lydia, lived under her constant watch. They were beautiful in a way that felt wrong, fragile, pale, their faces too symmetrical, their eyes too distant. Eleanor forbade them from stepping beyond the iron gate at the edge of the estate. "The world beyond will poison you," she warned. "Our blood is sacred." Every evening the family gathered in the dining hall beneath portraits of their ancestors. The candlelight flickered across faces that all looked disturbingly alike, the same sharp cheekbones, the same deep-set eyes. Eleanor would lead them in prayer, reciting the same phrase her mother once did. "Through the blood, we are eternal." Her voice trembled each time she said it, as if she no longer believed the words. Outside, a storm gathered over the mountains. The thunder rolled down into the valley like a growl from the earth itself. That same night, a traveler lost in the storm stumbled upon the Whitlock property. He was a young doctor named Nathaniel Clark, his clothes soaked, his face pale from exhaustion. He knocked on the grand wooden doors, unaware of the horrors that awaited him inside. Eleanor hesitated before letting him in. Strangers were forbidden, but her husband had died months ago in one of the coal shafts, and a part of her longed for the sound of a new voice, one untouched by the madness of her bloodline. As the doctor stepped inside, his eyes darted from the crumbling furniture to the faded portraits, finally settling on Clara and Lydia. He froze. Something about their faces struck him. He had seen patients born of close kin before, but never with such haunting beauty mixed with such quiet sorrow. He offered to examine them, concerned by their pale complexions and trembling hands. Eleanor refused at first, insisting they were perfectly pure, but when Clara fainted at the table, her mother had no choice but to allow it. The doctor's hands trembled as he examined her. He found signs of malnourishment, nerve damage, and something else, a strange irregularity in her pupils, a symptom of inbreeding he'd read about in medical journals but never seen so clearly. That night, as he wrote notes by candlelight, he overheard Eleanor whispering through the walls, speaking to someone who wasn't there. "You promised me they would be strong," she murmured. You promised me the blood would not fail." When he turned to look through the keyhole into her room, he saw her kneeling before a cracked mirror, clutching a small jar filled with dark, clotted blood. And in that reflection, for a brief, chilling moment, there were more faces than just hers. Faces of the dead, watching her pray. Clara had never seen a man like Nathaniel Clark before. His presence felt like sunlight piercing through the heavy curtains of her existence. Every word he spoke was gentle, every glance kind, something she had never known in the cold halls of the Whitlock estate. She began to linger near him during his visits, pretending to fetch water or bring him candles, though her mother's eyes followed her every move. Nathaniel, too, felt drawn to her. There was something tragic about the way she smiled, as if she had been waiting her whole life for a reason to. Her voice trembled when she spoke of the outside world, which she only knew through the faded pages of old books. She would ask him about the towns beyond the valley, about music, about trains, about light that came from electricity instead of fire. Each time Nathaniel answered, but he saw how her mother's shadow loomed behind her, listening. Eleanor began to sense the unspoken affection growing between them. The way Clara's cheeks flushed when the doctor entered the room, the way his hand brushed hers as he checked her pulse. At first, Eleanor dismissed it as youthful foolishness. But one night, when she found Clara sneaking into the study where Nathaniel worked, she felt the curse of her ancestors awaken inside her, jealousy mixed with rage. The following morning, she confronted Clara in the dining hall, her face pale with fury. "You shame this family," she hissed. "You would throw away centuries of pure blood for a stranger?" Clara trembled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mother," she whispered, "I just want to be free." Those words struck Eleanor like a knife. Free. To her, freedom meant corruption, the end of everything her family had protected for generations. That same night, Eleanor summoned the remaining Whitlocks from nearby properties, cousins, uncles, and distant relatives, for what she called a family ceremony. In the flickering candlelight, Clara was forced to wear a white dress. She thought it was a punishment, but when she saw her cousin Thomas standing beside her, his hands trembling, she understood the horror of what her mother intended. Eleanor announced that the Whitlock blood would be restored through union, that Clara would marry Thomas to preserve the family's purity. Nathaniel, upon hearing of this, tried to intervene. He stormed the mansion as the vows were being spoken, shouting for Clara to run, but before she could, two of her cousins restrained him. The ceremony continued, the family chanting in Latin-like murmurs as the thunder roared outside. Clara's screams echoed through the halls as the candles blew out, one by one. In the confusion, she broke free and fled into the storm, her white dress trailing through the mud, lightning illuminating her terrified face. Nathaniel tried to follow, but Eleanor's voice stopped him cold. She belongs to the blood now. By morning, Clara was gone. They searched the woods for days, but all they found was a torn piece of her dress near the edge of the river, stained with something dark. Some said she drowned. Others whispered that the spirits of the Whitlocks, the ancient ones buried in the valley, had claimed her. Eleanor never spoke of her again. The doctor left soon after, haunted by what he'd witnessed. But at night, when the wind howled through the valley, the servants swore they could hear Clara's voice, singing softly from the woods, calling for freedom that would never come. Years passed and the Whitlock estate grew quieter, heavier, like a mausoleum for the living. Dust settled over portraits of ancestors who all stared with the same cold eyes, and the laughter that once echoed through the halls had turned into whispers. Lydia, the younger daughter, now carried the burden of her family's name alone. Her mother, Eleanor, had grown frail and erratic, often seen speaking to unseen figures in the corners of dark rooms. The loss of Clara had twisted her mind beyond repair. One bleak winter night, the valley was blanketed in fog so thick it seemed to swallow the world. The villagers down the mountain saw a strange orange glow in the distance, a flicker from the Whitlock manor. Inside, Lydia screamed in agony as she gave birth to a child under the dim light of oil lamps. Eleanor hovered nearby, her trembling hands clutching a silver crucifix, chanting the same old prayer. Through the blood, we are eternal. When the baby's cry filled the air, something in Eleanor's expression changed. Relief mixed with dread. The child, a girl, had mismatched eyes. One blue, one green. And her gaze was unsettlingly aware, almost ancient. They named her Evelyn. Even as a baby, she would stare at empty corners of the room, following movements no one else could see. The servants whispered that she was born with the knowing, a curse passed down from the first Whitlocks. As Evelyn grew, strange things began to happen around her. Candles flickered when she entered a room. Doors creaked open by themselves. Sometimes her laughter echoed twice, once from her lips and again from somewhere behind her. The townsfolk who came near the estate crossed themselves, saying the Whitlock child had the devil's sight. Lydia tried to shield her daughter from the outside world, but deep down she feared what Evelyn might become. One stormy evening, Evelyn disappeared into the woods. Lydia found her standing before an unmarked grave, speaking softly to someone unseen. "She says her name is Clara," the child whispered. Lydia froze. Her sister's name had never been spoken in that house since the night she vanished. From that moment, Lydia knew the past had returned. The sins of the family had found a new vessel. The Whitlock coal mines soon began to fail. Fires erupted underground. Animals died mysteriously, and the workers refused to go near the property. Rumors spread that the land itself was rejecting the family's blood. One night, lightning struck the estate. Flames consumed the old mansion, devouring everything inside. When morning came, the Whitlock home was nothing but ashes and smoke. Lydia was gone, her body never found. But in the ruins, a villager discovered a single item untouched by fire. A leather-bound family journal, the pages covered in names, bloodlines, and symbols. Weeks later, a farmer spotted a small girl walking barefoot along the road, her mismatched eyes reflecting the dawn. She said nothing about where she came from. When asked her name, she simply whispered, "Evelyn," and smiled. Generations would pass, but her blood, and the curse it carried, would never fade. Thanks for watching Eyes Through Time, where forgotten stories rise again, and the past never truly dies. If you dare, stay tuned for Season 2, where the Whitlock curse returns to the modern world, and no one's blood is safe.